Well, after seeing quite a lot of things about list indexing, we are now moving on to some more contents regarding list, specifically list slicing, and then we will see how to add content to lists, how to add data to lists with lists append mostly. For list slicing, we are going to be seeing some code, but before we do that, I recommend that you have a look at this list slicing tutorial by Geeks for Geeks. And basically, the most important thing that they are telling us here is the syntax of list slicing. To slice a list, you basically write down the name of the list, square brackets, and in between you have three parameters: the initial position, the end position, and the jumps that we want to make. Okay, let's go back to it. Here, for example, we have a list called L, and with elements inside of it of different types, because as we know, as we have already seen, lists in Python can be of different types. They can be heterogeneous. We get an integer, float, strings, whatever. Okay. When I slice a list, let's see, for example, this. I'm going to consider the list L, so this one, from position 1 to position 5. As we remember, positions in Python start at 0, so this is position 0, so I'm going to start considering from here, and I'm going to consider 1, 2, 3, 4, and up to 5, but 5 is not included. Okay, many things in Python, including, for example, the range function and many other functions, work like this. When I include two indices, the first one is included, the second one is not. That's a function, that's a consequence of having things indexed from 0. Okay. So if I run this, I'm going to get that result. Okay. So I'm going to get exactly the result that I have highlighted. If I change this for number 4, I'm going to get one less position. This is going to take a little bit to run, but we will see the result in a second. Okay. As you can see, if I write down a 4 here, I end up in position 3. 0, 1, 2, and 3. And position 4 is already not included. So now I have my elements from position 1 to position 3. I can do the same. In this case, I'm going to be jumping in 2s, okay? From position 1 to position 7, advancing in steps of length 2. So I'm starting at position 1, which is which includes number 2.3, the value 2.3, okay, and I'm then going to be jumping on 2s. So I have 2.3, 1, AFD 2, and then this is position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm already at my last position, okay, because I'm including up to position 8. So the next time that I jump and I end up here, I don't want to include that one because it's outside of the end index. Okay. As with all things Python lists, I can also use negative indices. We just refer to the elements of the list, but when I start counting from the back, as we have seen in the previous video. For example, if I include from position 1 to position -1, I'm including from position 1 up to position -1 not included, so that is what I'm including, as I can see here. Okay. If I don't specify one limit, for example the end, then the extreme value is included, is used. So if I do not specify the end, all the list up to the end is outputted. If I don't specify the first one, then the list from its beginning is included. Okay. Some nice Python syntax, very simple way to reverse a list is this one. I specify the name of the list, the square brackets, and then I don't say anything for the start or end parameter. So I'm including all of the list from the first element to the last one. And then I'm using this very interesting and very Python characteristic -1 index, which means that I'm advancing in ones, but from the back. Okay, and this is a very simple and elegant way to reverse my list. The last element becomes the first one, second to last second, and so on and so forth until I finish with my first element. Okay, I could also use step 2 jumps if I wanted to. Okay, in this case, as you can see, I begin with the 5 as I used to do, then I jump 2 to the 16, I jump 2 to the 2, to the AFD, to the -1, to the 2.3. Okay, let me just leave this as it was, but I recommend that you look a little bit to the code and play around with it. The first time I personally saw this, I thought it was cute, but I didn't consider it super useful. I was very wrong. Okay, in many Python codes, slicing is very convenient and makes the code much shorter. So if you can get used to it, you can manipulate and create lists from the list that you already have with very compact syntax. Here I am leaving a proposed exercise. So as I was saying, play with the code where you understand the best way to learn to program is to code, to program, to do it. Okay. Second thing that I want to speak about in this video is how to add data to lists. We have already seen, for example, here that we can define lists that already contain data. We don't have to always start with the empty list that we saw was defined by writing down just open and closing square brackets. Okay, so we can start with lists that contain things, but sometimes we want to add elements to lists. Okay, and the most frequent way to do that is to append to them. Append to them adds elements to the back of the list. Okay, so for example, I'm initializing this list with 2 elements, -1 and 5, and then I'm appending 7 and 2 to it. And when I run this, I get, well, a list that first I printed it here, had only these 2 elements. After appending 7, it had 7 too, and after appending -2, it also had -2. Okay, so far we have seen what lists are, how to define them in Python, that we can have positive and negative indices, and we have also seen how to slice them, which is going to be mightily useful, and how to add elements to them to their back by appending.